This comic I know, his grandma died from coronavirus, and he made this website called like Donald Trump killed my grandmother.com or something.
Oh shit! I'll go check that out.
Yeah, I put it on my Instagram story. I think I was like, Donald Trump killed your grandmother or something like that. And he's like, that's the only platform Joe Biden should be running on. It's like, oh, what am I gonna do? Who cares? Donald Trump killed your grandmother. Welcome. Hey, who we got? Who's?
Oh, Beans is here, man. You know I'm a big fan.
Is Beans in the house?
Beans, I'm the biggest fan.
I didn't know we're gonna have a celebrity tonight. This is fantastic. I hope the camera stays on Beans this whole time. Oh, Beans is going to town.
Oh, Beans!
You should have brought that last week. That was last week's show.
That's good material, Beans.
This is a great trick. No one in the world believes in your dreams more than a temp agency. Okay? If like when all this is over, if you're looking for work, try to find a temp agency because they believe in you, because as long as you chase your dreams and they don't come true, that temp agency still makes a lot of money. No one believes in you more than a temp agency. I got this interview, and they're some of the most supportive people of my comedy career, because they're like, yeah, keep going, because we're making money off you. So keep doing it. I got an interview at this temp agency, and they placed me at a private equity firm in Manhattan. It was a 2-week data entry job, and it lasted until I quit 3 years later. Like by the time I left, like 3 people I started out with were like vice presidents of the company, and I was still a temp. I was a temporary employee for 3 years, but I liked it. It was the most reliable job I've ever had, and I liked having my own cubicle. I had my own little space, and everything in my cubicle was comedy related. I think I had the same 2 like spreadsheets for work on my desk for 3 years. Everything else was comedy related. I had to playbills from like shows of like solo shows I went to see by comedians I'm inspired by. I had it tacked to my cubicle. I had like a Dave Chappelle ticket stub up there. Like my desk was full of flyers for shows that had coming up. And I was good at my job. I basically was like an assistant to one of the executives, and I was good at it. He liked me. I got along well with everyone. I did my job. I met the deadlines, but I used the space as like a comedy office. I used my cubicle as like, this is where I'm gonna do my comedy stuff for it. I would book my gigs from the laptop. Like if someone from the IT department searched my laptop, they wouldn't find porn. They would find videos of me talking about sex, which is more awkward. Probably much more awkward than if you found porn on my work computer. And we worked in this huge building, right? Like I worked on 3, and on 4 was like the main lobby of the private equity firm, and it was a ghost town by like 7 o'clock. So what I would do at 7 o'clock, if I didn't have a show that night, I would take my laptop and go up to 4, and I'd just take over one of the conference rooms, and I would rehearse my stand-up in the conference room till like 1 o'clock in the morning. No one told me not to do this. No one got mad at me. And I think it's because I was good at my job, but also they were paying me as a temporary employee. Letting a crazy person rehearse in your conference room is much cheaper than paying for their retirement. So they didn't say So I would just use it as my comedy office, like every single day. If I didn't have a show tonight, I'd just be there till like 1 in the morning. And I only thought they were gonna hire me as a real employee like once or twice in the 3 years. The first time was on like week 3 of the 2-week gig. So I was like, I'm killing it, baby. I'm already like, I was only supposed to be here for 2 weeks. It's the 3rd week. I'm in, right? And they hired a photographer to take pictures of all of the new employees that started at the same time I started, right? So the photographer's taking everyone's photo, and he's looking at his list, and he says, I have 1 person left to take a photo of, 1 new employee to take a photo of, and then I'm done. And I thought it was gonna be me. I thought this was my boss surprising me. Like I thought this was my boss being like, you did a great job the past 2 weeks. You're a real employee. I want to get your photo on the website. I thought it was going to be a surprise, you know? Like when the photographer started walking closer to me, I started fantasizing about health insurance. I was daydreaming about going to the dentist, booking some appointments. I'm like, this is going to change my life. the photographer walks by me and he picks up one of the executive's puppies. He picked up a puppy. Kind of like Beans. He picked up a dog and he took a photo. He had the dog do a photo shoot. Like he took like 50 pictures of the dog. And the dog is still on the company website today as an employee. It's still listed as an employee all these years later. And I thought it was gonna be me, but it wasn't, man. And years later, I asked my boss, like we're still friendly. I asked him why he never hired me as a real employee. And he said, because I never talked about anything besides comedy. Like all I would talk about was how badly I just want to be a full-time comedian, you know? Like we would have these conversations about my future and I would never say, oh, for my future, I want to be here, you know? Like I would never say, what am I passionate about? Investing. Sometimes my boss and I would have these conversations. I'd just be telling about all these things I want to do with comedy and he'd be supportive. But I could see his eyes being like, why the fuck are you telling me this? I want to help you. Don't tell me this shit. You know the phrase, fake it till you make it? Like, I think that really means get the job, make money, and then quit. I think that's what that saying is. Like, shut up. This firm invested millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into these companies that they believed in. And they would have invested like potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars into my bank account if all I did was just shut the fuck up. I could have been making like finance money for 3 years if all I did was maybe not rehearse my jokes in the conference room while people were still doing their job every single night, right? All I had to do was keep it to myself. Just keep it to myself, and I could have made a lot of money. For example, in 2016, I had some money saved up. I had $1,000 saved up, and I had $10,000 in available credit from credit card companies. So I decided in 2016 to rent a theater in New York City for 15 nights. I rented this like 50-seat black box theater in New York City for 15 nights. I went into a ton of credit card debt, and this was going to be my big break. I was going to take it. This was going to be my shot to make it as a real comedian in New York City. This was my chance. I saw an opportunity. I took it, and I set up a meeting with my boss after I signed a contract with the theater, and I walked into my boss's office, and I said, I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for me. I appreciate my time I spent here. I appreciate your support, but I am going to leave the firm in 1 year. I gave my boss a 1-year notice that I was going to quit my temporary job. I said, I'm leaving the firm in 1 year. And he said something like, sure, get out of my office. He's like, I don't know. He's just like, yeah, whatever, fine, man, that's cool. So I was dedicated to making this work, you know, like I would rehearse constantly in that conference room. Like they gave me a key card too. Like I had access to the building, so I'd go in on the weekends and I'd rehearse on the weekends. And I was rehearsing nonstop. I hired a publicist. I hired a whole crew to help me out with these shows. My goal was to get like a review in the New York Times to like, and I felt like having a review in the New York Times would make me like an official New York City comedian. Give me credibility. It would be like, no, this is a serious guy. He's been in the New York. He's got a good review in the New York Times. I thought I would film it and sell it to Netflix, you know. And the show started. It came closer to opening night, and I was selling tickets. I thought I was going to either break even or make a profit by selling tickets, and I ended up doing all 15 shows, but it was by giving away free tickets or giving tickets for like $5, right? So we did all 15 shows. It was an awesome experience. Some of you were there. It was great. 15 nights of me just doing comedy, and then the show closed and nothing changed. Nothing at all. Nothing happened. Nothing happened from those shows. I didn't get in contact with Netflix. I didn't get a review from the New York Times. All that happened was I had about 6 months left of my 1-year notice at my job and a lot of credit card debt. So my plan was just to never acknowledge that I gave a 1-year notice at this job. I was just going to pretend like that never happened. And a couple weeks go by, and I get an email from my boss saying, hey, do you still plan on quitting in a couple months? Because I was the assistant to an executive at a multi-million-dollar investment firm. So he had to know my plans. So I said, he asked me if I still plan on quitting, and I said, no, maybe in another 6 months. I turned my 1-year notice into an 18-month notice that I was quitting my temporary job. And at that 18-month mark, I actually did quit. I quit 18 months after I said I was going to quit. They hired, like the temp agency found someone to replace me. I trained them, and a month after I quit, the firm hired my replacement as a full-time employee. 1 month after I left, they hired him as a full-time. He still works there today. They hired him as a full-time employee. And I was so broke. I quit even though I was in massive amounts of credit card debt. And I bought myself, as a present to me for like staying there for 3 years, I bought myself a ticket to London. And that was my first time leaving the country and doing comedy internationally. And if you tuned in last week, that trip I went to London after I quit my job was when I met the chick with the nipple rings, and I had a good time there. So that's when I had the country, first time doing comedy outside the country. And that led to me doing a lot more international trips. And I never got a review from the New York Times, but like just a few months ago, I got that story about the puppy being, the photographer taking a picture of the puppy. I got that story published in the New York Times. I did not get paid for it, but it's like the most, it's like one of the biggest accomplishments I've had in my comedy career is I got my short story of a puppy a photo being taken of a puppy. I got that published in the New York Times. So now my bio says Mike Lemme is a New York-based comedian, blah, 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 who's been in the New York Times. So if you ever read my bio and you see I've been published in the New York Times, just know I got that by moving to New York City, living with a married couple I found on Craigslist, selling salsa makers, at a temp agency for 3 years, rehearsing in the conference room, renting out a theater for 15 nights, quitting that job, and then submitting that story to the New York Times and not getting paid for it. So that's how I ended up in the New York Times.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions?